All right, we can begin now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to DAC DataFest 2021. And today is the day one of the industry talks. So we can start with our first presenter. Our first presenter is Ryzel Kammes. He is our alumni, and like a lot of us have worked with him before. He's currently working at AI Singapore, he's a platform engineer at AI Singapore and dealing with ML Infra and operations there. And today he'll be giving an insight for transitioning from our university times, undergrad times to industry. So yeah, Ryzel.
All right. Thank you, Aditya, for the introduction. So I'm gonna go present. Let me present my. All right. So yeah. Good evening, everyone. So thank you for tuning in. I'll see. I'm seeing about how many of you? About what, close to 30 of you. All right. Anyway, yeah. So my name is Ryzal. Today I'll be talking about the kind of steps, or rather the kind of knowledge that the kind of incremental learning that you can perhaps take up in order for you to transition from being a DAC participant or a SM undergraduate or any kind of undergraduate, all right, to your career, all right, in the AI, data science, machine learning field. Okay, so and the way that I'm going to later on in this presentation, I'm also going to be talking about basically how I will actually carry out if I were to be an undergraduate myself this period. What will I do instead of what I have done in the past? It's kind of like hindsight is 2020, where I want to revise whatever I have done in the past. But yeah, so the content online for today, it will be me just giving a brief introduction of myself, or a very brief one, and then I will touch on the end-to-end of things. All right, when you want to dwell in this machine learning world, all right, in this field of work, and then I will talk a little bit about the coverage that you get in uni. Okay, what's and how's of E2E ML systems? All right, the questions, basically this part over here will be, I'll be touching on the kind of questions that you will or should ponder about when it comes to learning the whole, picking up, all right, the different sets of skills for data science or AI. And then I'll be touching a little bit into the different aspects, all right, quickly, briefly, all right, into the reproducibility aspects, all right, deployment, ML Ops, CD4 ML, on a very high level, or on a high level overview kind of thing, all right. I don't have much time to go deep into each of these topics, but at the end of this whole presentation, all right, I'll be sharing with you the link to this set of slides, all right, in its PDF form, and then I have actually shared with you. I'll be sharing with you a lot of links, a lot of resources for you to tap onto. Okay, and you can basically tap onto these resources and learn more about these different things that I'll be touching on briefly. There are miscellaneous resources that I will include also, and then I will show you about how I will revisit or revise the timeline if I were to be a student myself, such as yourself. Yeah, a bit of disclaimer. All right. So even though I most of the time represent myself as the AI Singapore employee, but whatever I present does not necessarily represent the holistic view of such topics as well as DACs. Okay, so who am I? All right. So I'm currently a platforms engineer. All right. I started being a platforms engineer about I basically changed department into platform side. All right, where I deal with ML Ops and infrastructure. All right, for machine learning systems at AI Singapore. Before that, I was an AI engineer where I deal with AI problems, all right, with various domains. All right, I've dealt with cybersecurity problems, all right, medical problems, yeah, some NLP here and there, not too much, but yeah, that's my line of work. Yeah, a lot of data play, all right, and I do managerial work because I handle the apprentices within our what do you call it, programs in AI Singapore. And as Adia mentioned, I'm an alumni myself. All right, back in the days, it's not too long ago. I mean, I was a banking and finance student myself with UOL. All right. So back then there wasn't a what do you call it, the Bachelor of Science competing for data science and AI. You know, so there was no such thing. I didn't even know that I want to become a data scientist until like the final 1.5 year, yeah, of my undergrad years. So my involvement in SIM, so I was in Film Performing Arts Society, I was in TDP also, and lastly I settled down with DAC, and that's when I transit an undergrad and graduate into the data science and AI field of work. So I was in SIM for 4 years because I had to spread out my mods. I had to do part-time work because I couldn't get a loan. So I think especially when people who have graduated and they talk about their transition into whatever career it is, I think it's important to give a disclaimer of of wherever they come from, because different people have different privileges. Different people have different 24 hours to work with, right? So yeah, for those of you who relate with my current predicament, Xiaoyo, you can do it. Right? So my timeline is that back in I was from Pioneer Junior College. Now it's called Jurong Pioneer Junior College. And back my first touch with programming was with C++ programming language back in JC. Back then for H2 computing, it wasn't C++. It was it wasn't Python. It was C++. It was not that pleasant. I really didn't develop an interest in computer science because I couldn't find the point in it. All right. But then, NS happened and whatnot. A lot of things happened. Then I joined the AC, all right, where I started to learn R. And then, I started to pick up Shiny, which is a front-end framework for R, creating dashboards. Tableau is a familiar tool that I play with a lot back in the days, not anymore. And then Jekyll for me to do some websites, create my portfolio. And then I move on to internships. My last one and a half years in my undergrad years, I don't go to school much. I intern more than I school more. All right. I was an intern at NBC Universal as a research analyst. Back then also I did participate in some competitions, and then I moved on to an internship at AI Singapore, and then I got converted as a full-time employee. And the rest is history. I've been with AI Singapore since my graduation. All right, I got my job there before I graduated, and I've been there since. And this is my main stack of tool. Yeah, coffee. And this is a good memory, all right, of mine. Back the first set of data science workshops that I conducted as a DC exco member myself. Right, so a lot of people in this picture has gone on to has moved on to do great things, right? Some of them are doing their PhD in statistics with data science work in UK. Right, some of them are consultants in data analytics work. All right, I know some who are data scientists themselves. No, yeah, good to know that people from the AC have moved on to better things. So yeah, end-to-end ML. All right. When you are diving deep into this line of work, as an undergrad, when you're trying to explore this field of work, the things is that when you start out with something, you really do not know what you do not know. Okay. As time goes by, for me, I discover how much more ignorant I am as time goes by. because I get to know more. I get to know more of the missing pieces. Okay, I get to because and this is due to me being able to see the bigger picture. Right. So a big picture, an example of a big picture of an N2L ML system, all right, is well illustrated in this diagram over here. All right, this is from the paper called Hidden Technical Debt in Machine Learning Systems. It's from all the way back in 2015. It's still very much relevant till this day. Okay, but and what it aims to cover is basically how, you know, in machine learning systems, your ML, basically each boxes of this, they represent the amount of time that it takes to work on those different aspects. So, all right, so the bigger the box, the greater the time that it takes for you to do a certain job. For example, over here, ML code, this small black box, or ML code, that means, you know, the part where you train your model and whatnot, constitutes a very, very minor part. All right, so model training time aside, all right, but the amount of time that you code for your machine learning stuff, all right, this is the amount of time, all right. It's very minuscule compared to a lot of other things. Even your data analysis is minuscule compared to many other things, all right. You have a lot of things, you know, like for example, data collection, data cleaning, data verification, where you try to deploy your machine learning, all right, where optimization work comes in. And of course, monitoring your machine learning models, all right, once you have deployed it, to ensure that it performs how it's expected to, all right, and that it does not derail into a product that ended up becoming useless, or worst case scenario, adverse to your customers' needs. Okay, so there are links at the bottom. You can click on those links to head over to those papers. Right, this is another example of a diagram which showcases the end-to-end of things. All right, where you where you begin with your code and data. After that, you do some testing, all right, of whatever you have worked on. Make sure that you have your test cases, and then you build your environments, you train your model, and you deploy them. You know, a bit as a REST API over here at the top, or you deploy it on edge. On edge meaning that it's on the device itself, it's embedded into the device itself, right? And this is an example. What do you call it? This is a diagram of basically these are the logos of many different ML tools. All right, that you will have come across as you know, with time to time, as you start to learn more about these things. All right, I myself have touched about 80% of these tools over here, and it's fun. Right? Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I'm not being sarcastic. It's really fun. A lot to learn. It's very intimidating, but it's a lot of fun. So let's go back. Let's revisit back this image over here. So this is what it takes, all right, for a complete end-to-end machine learning system. All right, this is what they have hypothesized for, not hypothesized, rather they have the kind of knowledge they have, what they have come to conclude, you know, in what it takes to build an end-to-end machine learning system, right? So this is the diagram, but you know, you being in university, you know, in your course, and being, being a DAC member, historically, what you guys have learned, all right, the coverage is about that much, all right? Be it DAC or your undergrad studies, you know, when you learn stats, your stats modules, your maths modules, all those fundamentals, as well as your machine learning courses, it touches that aspect, that small aspect, all right? And that's about it, you know. You have your, just a moment, you have your, you know, DAC courses that you might have attended, all right? If not, you should attend them, all right? You have your ML 101s, 102s, all right? Your DA 101s, all the hard work that, you know, your DAC community members have put, you know, into. These are very beneficial things, all right, to attend in. But again, all right, the coverage is just that. So what is, so if you were to translate whatever you have learned into the kind of questions that this kind of knowledge is able to answer, these are the kind of questions, all right? The things that you have learned in the AC is able to answer things like, the questions like, how do I conduct data analysis? How do I train deep learning models? How do I conduct transfer learning? All right, the fundamental theoretical concepts for ML, your basic math and stats. And this is the intersection, all right? These are the same set of questions, the intersections between these two, the coverage in DAC and uni, as well as what is, what is expected. But there are a lot more questions, all right, that's to be answered. There are a lot of questions that are to be answered by many different aspects and tools, right? It's an endless list of questions. But that's the exciting thing about this field of work. There's just a lot of things to discover. And let's break down the different kind of things that you have to learn. Let's begin by reproducibility. Okay, so reproducibility, the tools, what kind of questions that begets from this idea of reproducibility is basically questions like, how do I collaborate well within a data science ML engineering team? Okay, so you have, for some of you, all right, hopefully, all right, at least half of you should come across GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, especially GitHub and Git. All right, these are your collaborative tools where you are able to version your code and whatnot. So yeah, these are the tools, all right, and reproducibility, all right, when it comes to replicating your analysis, all right, or having your fellow peers to reproduce whatever analysis that you have done, whatever machine learning model that you have developed, right, for them to reproduce those assets, those artifacts. All right, these are the kind of things that you need. All right, contact environment, your Python virtual environment, your Docker containers, all right, and tools that allow you to reproduce pipelines such as Schedule. And we know how to version code, but the thing is that in machine learning systems where data is such a huge component, and when you want to ensure reproducibility, you need the same set of version of stuff, right? Be it code or data, all right? You need the same set of data in order to reproduce the same set of artifacts. You can look into tools like DVC, right? DVC is like a great starter, all right, for you to look into data versioning. It's very simple, very accessible, very, very, very simple to set up, really. There's Quilt, Pachyderm. These are the harder ones, or a little bit more expensive, not as accessible as DVC, and great expectations for you to verify your data. All right, it does a great job in data verification. So these are the kind of tools, all right, that you can look into for reproducibility. All right, all the different kind of tools. But more than the tools itself, all right, the thing is that these tools that you see, they will change over time for sure. All right, give it 3 years, some of these tools will be obscure. But what's more important is that you know how to actually answer the questions, all right? And this is due to the concepts, due to the concepts that you have in your head, all right? If you know how to navigate about a certain problem without being too dependent on the tool, I think that's more important than being very well adversed with a certain tool. Okay, so it's not just about the tool, all right? Really, it's about you understanding the different concepts, the different needs of these different problems, issues that you will come to face when you are trying to build a machine learning system. I have provided a lot of resources later for you to refer. All right, when you obtain the slides, you can refer to these resources. You can read them. Okay, they're all for free. So why not? If you have time, look through them. Okay, since we're about almost halfway. Since we're about halfway into this presentation, I think any of the committee members, you could share the Q&A link. All right. I think I'm not sure. Do you have the link over there? Yes. Okay. So Anhao has shared to everyone the link. All right. So from time to time, as I'm talking, you have some questions that you're itching to throw out there for me to answer, or any of even the committee members to answer. Please. All right, feel free to throw it there. and I'll do my best to answer later. But all right, now I'll just go ahead with moving on to the next part where I touch on deployment. Oops, I just accidentally clicked on the link. Okay. Right. So how do I make it full? All right. So deployment tooling. All right. Basically, this topic, the kind of questions that it comes to mind will come in the form of questions such as how do I deploy train models. The thing is that I know from even until now, all right, the workshops that are being held in the AC, be it back in the days or now, I think a lot of the work is contained locally, where a good model or a baseline model is being trained. But the thing is that it's all in your machine. The thing is that it's important for you to learn how to actually make these models be useful to a set of end users, be in the form of customers or your fellow developers. Okay, as in the quote in the previous page was basically, even the best performing model in this whole wide world is rendered useless unless you allow it to be used by people. And you have frameworks like Fast API, Style, and Heroku, right? This kind of different deployment tools, all right, for you to leverage on, for you to deploy your models. And then there's and you are able to deploy the models, but at the same time, you need front end interfaces, all right, for end users to easily interact with this kind of tools. Even though you might have created an API using Fast or Fast API where you deploy your model, but the thing is that to interact with these APIs, mostly your developers will be the one well versed to handle that kind of things. But what about your business analysts? What about your customers? Right? They will rather have front end frameworks. And the thing is that you have this kind of this kind of front end frameworks that you can code in Python or R without knowing how to actually code in JavaScript, all right, or Go, where you can basically JavaScript is like the lingua franca for web development. But the thing is that if you are not creating too complicated of a front end interface, Streamlit is one of the best, the fastest way, all right, to actually come up with a front end interface. Plotly Dash is a little bit more complicated, but way more flexible than Streamlit. Shiny is like my first love for front end framework, all right, back when I was learning R. So you can take a look into these 3 different frameworks. And then, so you know how to deploy your train models, you know how to create a front end interface, but then you want to go another level, all right, you want to, step your game up. You got to look into continuous delivery / deployment, where you look into tools like Jenkins, or this is a CI/CD tool, continuous integration deployment, CI/CD tool, right, that allows you to build your environments and then automatically deploy it into the cloud. All right, Heroku is an accessible kind of like cloud. It's more accessible than say like AWS. It's more easy for you to deploy stuff there. There's also DeployBot over here. You can take a look into that. And here are the resources. All right, some of the links directs you to tutorials for you to get started on deploying such models. So yeah, do explore all these resources. The next step is ML Ops. So we have covered reproducibility, we have covered deployment. All right, ML Ops is I would say it's like a more advanced. It's the next set of needs. All right, so in a hierarchy of needs for machine learning systems, ML Ops is pretty up there. But a lot of I think if you know how to do this, if you learn how to do this back from your undergrad days, it will be impressive. Okay, I wish I have done this back in the days. In fact, now we have a lot of tools that are made free for you all to touch on this kind of topics. So the kind of questions that comes about from this topic is, how do I automate checks for code integrations? So the thing is that, when you collaborate with your fellow peers in the data science team, the thing is that you need to ensure that any introduction of new code, they are tested, they are able to integrate with the other parts of the codes. making sure that they pass tests, right, in the form of through unit tests or what we call integration tests. And this kind of testing, you can do it to CI. Another CI/CD tool is like an alternative of Jenkins. GitHub Actions. You should check out GitHub Actions because this is a free CI/CD tool for you to use. So basically, you are able to automate a lot of stuff, all right, on GitHub. Whatever you push to GitHub, you are able to automate some parts. PyTest is a module for you to actually test your code. Okay, I know, a fellow SIM alumni, Tracy, has touched on, the importance of unit testing. Bandit, all right, is a static code scanner, so you can look into these tools. And when you are training machine learning models, of course, it's important for you to track, all right, the different kinds of machine learning models that you have trained, the different hyperparameters, the different arguments, parameters, the hyperparameters that you have used to train the models, all right. So you need to track those different versions of models, what are the parameters that are being used, as well as tracking the different kinds of pipelines that you've used to create those models. And you can use tools like MLflow, weights and biases, and Optuna. Optuna, it's more of a hyperparameter tuning kind of tool, but you can take a look into these tools. Weights and biases is free. MLflow is so MLflow and weights and biases. When to use which tool? MLflow is for if you are doing a project alone, it's fine. All right, but if you want to collaborate with your fellow team, maybe weights and biases will be more viable. How do I automatically provision resources to scale my solution? This is way more advanced, all right, but if you know how to do this, a lot of companies are looking for you, basically, right? Because when people are looking to deployment of automatic deployment of models, you need to provision. You want to look into automatic provisioning of resources. For example, like a VM or a EC2 instance in your AWS. So these are the kind of tools that you can look into automating this provisioning, because having to manually set up a server for each EC2 instance, having to manually configure each of them is just cumbersome. So these are the kind of tools that you can look into. Kubernetes over here on the right, you might have come across this this tool. Basically, this tool allows you to scale your applications. All right, I use it a lot at work. But yeah, you can take a look into learning this. It's not really needed for you when you graduate, but if you this is like lower end of the priority list. But if you know how to do this, then hey, you're in good hands. How do I monitor my deployed models? All right, so this is also another more advanced topic where if you have deployed a model, you need to ensure that your model doesn't decay in its performance, that it doesn't decay too much in its performance, as new data comes in, as new customer bases comes in. All right, you need to ensure that they are generating predictions that are expected. And then, and you do it through tools like Prometheus. Prometheus is open source and free. Splunk is much more premium, but then it makes a lot of things easier for you. In fact, for some of you, when you go to internships, you go to bigger MNCs, Splunk will be the kind of tool that you use. It's relatively ubiquitous. These are the kind of resources that you can look into. All right, some of them are videos, easy for you to pick up, easy for you to just watch. Not too much reading. Some of the resources are for you to read. And yeah, miscellaneous stuff that for you to look into. I wouldn't say that they are less important, but then with limited time, you nitpick, all right, the kind of things that you want to pick out from this list of resources that you want to learn. The first of the bat is the AI ethics. This is something that I think every data science course, every data science undergrad course, master's course, whatever courses, all right, programs, right, they should include AI ethics into it. no point having the best minds in this field of work, but then they are all, taking part into creating something that's corrupted. Federated learning through privacy preservation tools. All right, you can take a look into this. This is something that's more, uh, how do I say it, more obscure. All right, will not be applicable to a lot of companies nowadays, but it's an increasing concern. Portfolio building and documentation. So these are the kind of resources that you can take a look into to create your portfolios, right? There are many ways to go about it. There are a lot of free resources for you to create a website. Creating a website for you to quickly, showcase your work is getting easier and easier. All right, the kind of democratization that's happening, it's an exponential level, right? So you can take a look. My personal favorite is material for MK Docs and GitHub Pages. They make it easy for you. So GitHub Pages, you just need a GitHub account. Basically, you are able to set up a website with your own name in the link if you want, or your own nickname, username. Site. And I don't think I think it's important for everyone actually to create a portfolio, especially these days, right? When it's harder for you to network and for you to put your name out there. When you are when you are, what do you call it, sending out applications or resumes for job applications. I think it's important. Having a portfolio embedded inside your resume will be impressive for some of these for some of these employers, because they know that there's something credible for you to back up your own set of skills. Free courses, all right, learning paths books. There's a lot of free courses out there. All of them are good. My personal recommendation, all right, first of all, that first, if you have no time at all right, to go through most of this stuff, just go through the first one over here, MIT Missing Semester of ACS Education. This will allow you to touch on shell, bash scripting, Git. This allows you to work with. This allows you to learn some of the terminal stuff that will make your data science journey way easier. And then full stack deep learning and made with ML. These are incredibly pleasant courses that I myself, if I had the time, I would go through them myself also. This allows you to learn the end-to-end of things, not just the modeling part. All right, so it gives you more tools in your tool belt. Okay, and community opportunities. So there's what do you call it? There's I come from AI Singapore, so AI Singapore has its own AI apprenticeship program, where we actually we take in be it undergrads or mid-career transitioners, where you can actually apply, and then if you succeed, basically you'll be placed under 9 months, where 2 months of these 9 months is training, deep skilling in AI, where you learn end-to-end things, and then for the latter 7 months you actually work on real AI problem use cases. You work with big names. I can't say a lot of these big names, but you can look into the AI Singapore website. I myself am actually working with a lot of these apprentices. I've worked with a lot of these apprentices, and I actually have a great pleasure with working on this very hard, very 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 interesting use cases on AI with them for 7 months. I think this is one of the programs out there that's unique, in the sense that you get to really dive deep into AI, into learning about AI before you transition fully into, and you are being paid per month, all right, at least 3,005. So you can take a look into that. Sadly, the case, I haven't seen much applicants from SIM or DAC members, so hope to see more of that. GovTech, SG Innovate, SG United, they all have their own set of skills programs, upgrading programs, skill upgrading programs, whatever. that you can take a look into. I think GovTech one is closing end of this month, so you can take a look into that. But this one is more, and I think GovTech you can rotate if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure. I can't remember anymore. But it's GovTech is a great place to work at. Communities, all right. So COVID nowadays, a lot of things, a lot of meetups, events, networking events are all online. But once COVID has blows off, then you can join this kind of communities where there are a lot of opportunities for you to actually go on site, different company offices, organizational offices, and network with practitioners. I myself am I'm an organizing committee in Data Science SG, so there's a lot of events that we are coming up with, and you can take a look. AISG also has its own community. DataKine SG is a place for you to actually work on real problems also, but on a volunteering basis. Engineers SG is more for engineers, but they are more domain agnostic, okay? Where the latter Data Science SG AI Singapore is more like AIDS focused, but engineers is more, more agnostic in terms of the developer domain. Meetup.com, if you haven't got on there, basically you can take a look into all the different kinds of interest groups. So revisiting the timeline, so I've touched on the different kind of things that it's good for you to take a look into in this line. You want to transit into this line of work. So let me revisit back, back in the days when I joined when I enrolled in SIM and I joined the AC. What's the timeline or the outline of things that I go through, the sequence of things that I went through in order to, before I graduate and to move into the ML career, DS career. So I learned my maths and stats theoretical fundamentals. In your banking and finance course, you have the option to learn this. And then I attended my DAC workshops. I conducted the workshops. You can learn a lot by offering to conduct things, all right? And I participated in hackathons. Nowadays, hackathons is not that much of an option. I don't like online hackathons, so I wouldn't do it myself now. I dive deeper into statistical methods. So instead of your deep learning stuff back in the days, I learn more on your clustering methods, your statistical methods, your regression methods, the more simple, less compute intensive algorithms. I publish my data analytics works and data visualization apps through my portfolio. I did some networking, and through networking, I managed to get some internships actually. All right, and I got converted into full time after going through those set of internships. Both internships actually, I had the opportunity to convert full time. So really, internships is a great way for you to get employment. It's still relevant, okay? But if I were to, be a student myself, all right, how I would do it is that, okay, how I would do it differently, right? I'll still stick with the theoretical fundamentals. Never forget your theoretical fundamentals, right? And then of course I'll attend DAC workshops. But the difference that DAC workshops nowadays, okay, the DAC workshops nowadays, it's more beginner friendly. All right, beginner friendly, especially those of you who have never touched maths and stats before. It's easier to ease yourself into it. What else? There's a lot of it's more segmented, so you can learn different things and it's better paced, right? If you attended my boot camps last time, you'll be cursing at me because I go too fast sometimes, right? And I would dive deeper on the above topics. I would create simple projects. The keyword here is simple, as well as plural for projects, MVPs, and POCs. So do not, don't focus too much on creating the best model, the best dashboard, the best API or whatsoever. All right. The thing is that for you to increase the iterations. All right. So, for example, an iteration will include where I, scout for open data sets, and then I create my own data sets. I think creating your own data set is it's one of the most frustrating thing, but it's one of the most rewarding thing as well. And it's a very useful set of skill. your data analysis, you'll never be able to escape your EDA or feature extraction. Train simple models first, right? Before training more models, right? And then I'll package this model, make sure that they are reproducible, that they are tested, integrate models into a front end application, deploy into the cloud, incorporate CI/CD, publish the project document journey, all right, through my blog, and then I will train a more robust model, a stronger model, and then include that into whatever I have worked on. And then I'll repeat the cycle over and over again, all right, be it for the same project or different kinds of project. After I've created a portfolio, I'll share it with the world, increase my visibility, be it through LinkedIn, be it through Twitter. All right, Twitter is especially I prefer Twitter over LinkedIn any day, and yeah, even through the AC. Okay, and then share with juniors and peers, your network, and apply for internship. Okay, so for me, I think it's important that you so internships are great, but even if you find it very hard to get in internship nowadays, I think now it's harder than ever, all right, to get even an internship, what more in employment. So portfolios are becoming increasingly relevant for you to showcase your skills. Okay, so yeah, internship pays nowadays also are like, yeah, so it's not that good. So yeah, so you can chase the Singapore dream after that, pay your debts, whatever. All right, so yeah, those are the kind of things that I will actually revise and do instead of like what I've done in the past. And these are the slides. All right, you can download them, and yeah, you can scan the QR code or go to the bit.ly link over there. Let me just type quickly into the chat. Do you see the F21, the 2C PDF over here? Okay, I shared it with everyone. Hopefully, you all can see that. You can go over to that to get the slides, and then click on the and basically browse through all the links, all the resources that I've shared. I can cover each of these different aspects to great details perhaps next time. But yeah, for now, just enjoy these resources. Go through them whenever you have the time, whenever you are incrementally discovering each of these different aspects. Okay. Now, okay, so these are my contact. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Ryzel Kammes, or on Twitter. Okay. Now let's revisit the questions. All right. Can you all see my questions? Can you all see this step where there are the questions? I have 5 questions over here. Okay. So the first question that I get, that I see over here, what components or projects in your resume do you think help you in your career early on? Which components, projects? Let me see. Basically, okay, so see, the thing is that, when you tell your employers that from your resume that you have a hard skill, a lot of people, they can say that on their resumes, but how do you illustrate that? So you illustrate that through a portfolio, right? But then, of course, what I did back in the days was that I create like as I'm trying to share my analysis or my journey, I also share some code. So in a way, those code or these repositories, they kind of like increase my credibility of whatever I was able to do. Okay, so it kinds of like give them some confidence, and they know that I'm serious about transitioning into this line of work. And also I document some of my journey into this data science field. Also, when I was attending hackathons back in the days, I managed to win some of them, and I documented my journey. That helped me. That further helped me in getting some visibility, because I also embedded some Google Analytics into my portfolio site back in the days, and then I do find that actually people do visit my portfolio site, employees do. And yeah, I think just sharing whatever you have learned, whatever skills that you are able to, that you have learned, showcasing them in a credible manner, through your GitHub repository or GitLab repository, whatever Git rep platform that you're using. Just show some code. I think that will be best. Or even contribute to open source projects. But I think for most of you, that's going to be hard. Okay. So let me answer the rest first before I answer the newest. What are top AI ML projects you will value to see in a potential applicant? For me personally, I'm interested in seeing the end-to-end of things. Actually, a lot of my peers do get turned off. All right, even if you know how to create the best model, but your code is ugly as hell. Where the code is not modularized, all in one script, no modular functions. Yeah. So those are the kind of things. Those are the kind of things that will make your portfolio will make you more credible. Right. Just make sure you know how to write clean code, better code, testable code. Yeah. So even though don't neglect your coding skills just because you know the best, the fancier state of the art models. You also need to know how to code well. All right. So it's not the kind of projects. It's really, even if you have like 10 projects, if all of them are them three, doesn't matter. You have 2 or 3 incredibly well thought out, very clean projects, with deployed application, with deployed into the cloud applications. I think that would be sufficient. Yep. The next question will be: is ability to understand and translate research papers into implementation a useful skill to have? It would be great. But I can tell you, reading research papers is not that easy. All right, there's a special skill to it. But if you are planning to translate into academia, I think it's important that you learn how to read research papers. Just Google on how to properly go through research papers. But yeah, in order for you to dive into this line of work, it's not necessary, but it would be great. Because after all, when you eventually go into this line of work, when you want to look at more novel approaches, novel state-of-the-art models, those updated algorithms, you need to know you need to know these implementations, and these implementations are usually explained through research papers. So yeah, it's definitely a useful skill to have. But yeah, take all things in stride, in good stride. Its ability to understand. Are there internship mentorship opportunities for international students for SIM available? Yeah, there are. Just now, the network, the communities, the links to the communities that I've shown, some of them are open to all kinds of students, not just local students. So you can take a look into those, and of course, you can source on your own. For mentors or internships. A lot like NBC Universal, back in my NBC Universal internship. What do you call it? My NBC Universal internship, that they do take in international applicants. Is for them, they prioritize more on finding the best fit for students. So it's and I'm sure the same goes for many different companies. All right. So as the bigger companies, of course, they can afford to take more international interns. But yeah, for your SMEs, of course, I think they will have to be more choosy. So of course, there are opportunities for international students. Do you think masters is important for career in ML AI field? I didn't take masters, and I'm still in this field of work. It's of course okay in Singapore. Paper still talks. To job to what do you call it, to get your incremental increments in payment, in your compensation. Masters can play a part, not all the time though. So it does have an importance, but let me just put it this way: if you can't afford to take a master's after you graduate, why bother, right? But if you can afford, good for you. But if you are still fickle about in this line of work and you want to consider a master's in data science and AI, I'll suggest not. All right. Of course, take masters for something that is serious. I know too many people who take masters for things that they have no, that they are still unsure about. It's not cheap. AIDS data science masters are not cheap nowadays because institutions leverage on hype. Okay, so they know how to charge. Well, all right. The fees for such courses have been increasing an increasing rate. So yeah, consider well. All right, know all your options. Let me look at the two newer responses. How do we prepare for AI internships? Whatever I've just said, do all that. I think you're in good hands. But first and foremost, I think portfolio. I'm gonna be honest, right? Back from the days, even when I was still a fellow exco member of DAC, I don't have a lot of my peers who has portfolios that they can show to their employers to get into AI internships. Yeah, for me, how I get my for me how I get my internships is basically people do look into my portfolio, like for real, before they even start because before they even start talking to before my ex bosses start talking to me, they look into my portfolio, and when we met for the first time, they talk about all the skills that I actually talk about in my portfolio, and yeah, the more skills that that you are able to showcase to your portfolio, of course, more employees will want you, right? And you have more doors open for you. Yeah. How to know which field in data science you want to specialize? Oh, this is the question that you have that you can answer yourself by diving deep into the different aspects. For me, how I know? Okay, for me, how I know how to be a platforms engineer that works on ML ops and infrastructure is by actually, through my first 1.5 year of working on AI problems. I find architecting a whole end-to-end ML system is more intriguing than just developing the model itself. For me, I don't find it that interesting, that whole iteration of training a model and then evaluating it and then go back to training the model, tweaking the architecture and whatnot. I don't find that as exciting. Other people find it more exciting, good for them. I would like to work with them. I work on other stuff, they work on that. Right. So but this kind of things you really need to discover on your own over time. But it's a good first step that you want to get into data science. I think that's a good first step. A lot of people graduate, they do not know what to do, which is okay. They just need more time. But since you are here already, just read up more and do more. Yeah, like for example, like the CI/CD stuff that I mentioned. If you as you go through the motion of like creating unit testing, automated testing, automatic deployments, and then you find out that you hate such stuff, right? Then definitely ML Ops, ML Infra is not for you. Okay. I think that's it. That's all the questions that I have. Am I out of time, committee members?
No, it's fine.
Okay. I guess I can take one or more two questions from the chat, I guess, or the committee members. You have your own answers you want to give, or you have questions of your own.
I can think about your question.
It's very talking. Okay. I guess nobody has any questions, yeah? How to know if data science is for you? Okay. Let's just go with the one or two more questions, and after that we can move on to the next speaker. How to know if data science is for you? Data science, okay, of course, nowadays data science is a good intersection, has a good intersection with computer science. if you, I think this industry more than many other fields of work, I don't know what, for example, accounting or business administration. If you are not ready for fast-paced changes, like really fast-paced changes, where something that you learn 2 years back or even a year back becomes obsolete, and then you have to move on to many different things, I think it's not the right field of work for you. All right. Back in your days, Hadoop was a big thing. Now, nobody talks about it. Not many people talk about it. A lot of people still use it, but it's a dying tool for a lot of budding companies. Yeah. What else? If you hate maths and stats, then why? If you hate maths and stats, it's not that you can't go into this line of work. It's just that I think you should stray further away from like the data science, the model training aspects. If you hate, but I think even when you want to work on ML Ops and infra, because you will do programming, right? Your logical thinking and maths and stats fundamentals would somehow creep in, especially if you need to know how to optimize algorithms and you need to know how to optimize things. But if you hate maths and stats, don't go into this line of work. You're not needed to know, all right, maths and stats like to the highest degree, but at the same time, you cannot live without it in this line of work. What else? Yeah, if you love sleep, no, it's a this line of work, just a lot of things to learn, right? Too many things, right? Because data science AI is applicable to like many different domains. You have finance, healthcare, FMCG, whatever, all domains. All right. We at AI Singapore, we work with different kind of like domains for AI use cases. But and depending on which company you work for, eventually you will have to like jump across different domains. Incredibly exciting for a lot of people, but for some people, I think if you have a specific domain that you like to work with for data science, for example, you would like to work with geospatial, geospatial stuff, then do find your community, build your portfolio on that domain, maybe go into academia even, and work on that. I think more than like whether data science is for you, if you know you want to go into data science, then I think a better question would be, how do you know if this field of data science is good for you or this role of data science is good for you? Yeah, so many questions so little time. Is it possible to, okay, that's this one last question. Is it possible to get a research position without PhD or master's? Possible, but very hard. You can work, I know one or two. I know one or two individuals who work as a research assistant. All right. I mean, actually, there are a lot of research assistants out there who do not have PhD or masters. They eventually want to work on masters, but they don't have their masters yet. And yeah, they work on research stuff. But research for AI, so AI and data science is a competitive line of work in itself. You want to get into this line of work, but you want to get into research somehow, it's additionally competitive. So it's possible, but it's hard. All right. But Singapore, we there's a lot of programs where they want to actually, they want to get more PhD applicants, PhD undergrad, PhD, candidates. So you have to look into those programs. All your local use, they have a lot of sponsorships and whatnot. So if you can try, why not try applying for those? Some of your DAC alumni actually went on to do masters and PhD using some of the scholarships. So you can take a look into those also. Yep. Guys, that's it. All right. If you have any questions, all right, Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or your seniors. All right. They have done a lot of great work, right? So yeah, do converse with them. You have my LinkedIn, you have my Twitter. Yeah, you can contact me for for certain questions. Just don't ask me programming questions that you can Google for yourself. All right. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for your attention. I think enough of me babbling. So yeah, back to you guys. All right, back to you, Aditya.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ryzel. I really appreciate the talk. I think we all learned a lot and give us a good perspective for the industry, like if you want to get into it and the stuff that's available. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.